Thank you for joining us back here on Just Conspiracy, where we just wish to conspire to bring heaven down to earth. It's just something we're doing right now. In that, we're also trying to conspire to show to you and prove to you that in Henderson, North Carolina, they're committing trust fraud through the courts. And the last time, in the last video, in the last presentation, we showed you the documents where Josephine transferred the properties into her name out of the trust. And we also showed you, or let you listen to, Joni verifying the trust fraud before an open court. And that's where we're going to start off today, where she comes back and we all know what happens. Then she gets arrested. But that's the first thing that we're going to hear is a couple minutes after that. So without further ado, let's get started.
I want to go with her.
No, sir. You can't go back.
Then don't do that to her.
She did it to herself.
She did not. She cheated at my daughter. She's my flesh and blood.
Sit down. Sit down. Let the record reflect that I've spent 2 days looking over the files. There have been at least 6 attorneys, and competent attorneys. One of them I consider one of the best domestic
They're
lawyers.
inept. The attorneys are inept.
Just be
Otherwise, you would
quiet.
help me at the
Mr.
beginning.
Ramos, please sit down.
Let me go ahead and say this. He just said he spent 2 days looking over the file. Let me reiterate that. 2 days. And the last day, Joni just verified criminal trust fraud for him.
2 of whom have become district court judges. 1 has become the clerk of court. All very, very competent attorneys have had to bail out of this case. And it
Who
appears,
is confidence for? You
it
help
appears
me?
to the court.
Are you going to help me?
Please
You're a lawyer.
sit down. It appears to the court that there's been a concerted effort to
Sir,
not try to resolve the case. And on
I don't
Tuesday,
understand what
I
you're
guess it was
saying.
Tuesday,
I don't understand what you're saying. I told you I couldn't hear. I don't understand what you're saying, Baba says. What are you saying? I gave you a notice. I can't hear. That's why Joni was going to take care of this for me.
at the last minute, I received voluminous pleadings on a 2013 case on what is often referred to, the pleadings appear to be what is often referred to as Cherokee Nation, Freeman, or Sovereign Nation.
Did you hear that? Here's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it where if you're not an attorney, you automatically have to be a free man, a Cherokee Nation, a sovereign citizen. You don't know law at all. He's putting that on the record just to send it up to the appellate court. This is why we have to show you what we actually said, what we actually did. Because if they create this to be precedent, nobody has any rights anymore. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It only will matter which attorney you can pay off. It doesn't matter how right you are. It will only matter which attorney you bribe, how much they bribe the judge with. This is scary, scary stuff because the only thing we did was take what they wrote and reworded it. That's all Joni and her dad did. And here's her dad saying, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand. If you let them get away with this, all law is gone. All rights, all justice, it's all gone.
It bear no resemblance to anything in the courts that I have dealt with.
Could you tell me?
That's because you only deal with courts that have 2 attorneys on each side and everything is left to your discretion. So when a man walks in there who actually has rights, they don't know what to do anymore. So they just have to violate them.
What you mean, what you're saying, Judge?
I'm just saying this because I think if it goes up on appeal, I want the judges to have a really sharp pencil and start looking at this file.
He says, we're trying to create precedent. We're trying to create case law. So I'm going to try and build the record for them on appeal to say, oh, well, this is what the trial judge thought. Obviously, it must be right. Obviously, we have to take away everybody's rights all of the time, and nobody will be afforded their right to be heard before a tribunal or a judicial officer, their right to have a trial by jury when they have an interest in the case. This is really, really important stuff. And if only attorneys get it, if only attorneys understand, we might as well go ahead and give off all of our rights right now. There's never a point to a trial by jury. We should have always just let somebody else decide our fate and our future. We should just automatically let the government be in control of everything because obviously we don't know how to govern ourselves.
My daughter is
Your
my
daughter,
blood here.
she
I
can-
need her. She's been with me all this time.
she's not an attorney. I explained that to her at length the other day.
Who needs an attorney? I need God.
Where is Joni at? I don't know what I'm doing. I gotta have Joni. We had a plan. She has an interest in the case. Where is she at? She's not an attorney. She doesn't have to be an attorney. She has an interest in the case. Are you gonna believe him? Or are you gonna believe your own eyes?
You mentioned an attorney in New York.
Yes,
Is that Mr. Martin Chow?
it is.
Okay, I've kind of skipped through a couple of parts here. Now Josephine is on the witness stand. Let's hear what goes on.
And is he holding the money in escrow from the satisfaction of this note?
He is.
Okay. That note, the note still existed when you and Mr. Ramos separated in 2013, did it not?
Yes, it did.
All right. And the total amount currently held in that account in New York is
I believe that's right.
okay.
It's been so long, but
You were you've had correspondence from Attorney Chow in New York.
yes, I have.
Okay. Let me ask you about a piece of property here in Henderson County. Are you familiar with property on Thomas Road in Henderson County?
I am. Yes, sir.
And what was that piece of property?
It was my home, if that's what you're referring to.
Okay.
295 Thomas Road.
And when did you and your ex-husband acquire that home?
19. Hold it. I need to recall it because I'm a little nervous.
It's okay.
I'm a little nervous. I forgot what you told me to lie about and what you told me to tell the truth about. This is just my opinion, being there, watching it, witnessing it.
Was it during
1986
Okay.
of January.
during your marriage, before your separation?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And when the two of you separated in 2013, was there any type of monies owed on that piece of property?
Yes, sir.
And what, was it a mortgage on the property?
Correct.
And
It
who,
was a loan. My husband got the loan from without my signature.
okay. So he had encumbered the property in his name alone.
Correct.
And did you have access after your separation to the mortgage on that property?
Did I have access to?
Yes, ma'am. Did you have access to the mortgage company? Did you have access to the documents? Did you have access to the
Of course
bank?
not. He took care of everything.
Okay.
He took care of everything.
What happened with that piece of property?
It went into foreclosure because Mr. Ramo did not pay the bank.
Okay.
And I got upset because, can I reiterate?
Okay.
Because I received a letter from the bank stating that it was going into foreclosure. So there was a phone number and everything, all that was there. And so I called up and I said, how can you do that to me? I said, I don't have that property. And he said to me, I can't talk to you. Your signature is not on the note and Mr. Ramo owes it. I said, yeah, but I own the property, so how can you do that? And he says, well, we can't, because he took a note, you're married to him. And everybody who's married to another person, they're liable for it.
Now, this is why I was saying it's hard to remember your lies just a second ago, because she couldn't remember what year she bought the house, but she remembers this big elaborate story and very, very fine details when this happened. And I also wish for you to pay close attention. Notice this guy's not saying, here's the document that shows neither one of their names are on the mortgage note. Here was the up-to-date deed when it was foreclosed on. I wish to enter this into evidence. See, the attorney's not doing that. It's just her word, and I believe she's lying for that reason right there, because it was hard for her to remember what year did we get the house, but I remember this big elaborate conversation and all this back and forth with the bank.
So you had tried to make attempts once you found the property was in foreclosure to do something about it. Is that correct?
Of course.
Ultimately, it was foreclosed upon.
Yes, it was. Yes, sir.
And you filed an equitable distribution affidavit in this matter. Do you remember doing that quite some time ago?
Oh, yes, we did it twice.
You had indicated, I believe, that the value of that property was about $350,000 at the time of your separation.
Yes.
Okay. You didn't have an opportunity to salvage or save that piece of property that Mr. Ramo allowed to be foreclosed upon.
I couldn't get even in the door.
Do you have concerns since the filing of this equitable distribution action about Mr. Ramo's wasting away of marital property?
Would you repeat that?
Have you had concerns since this case has gone on of Mr. Ramo's wasting away marital property? For example, the Thomas Road house.
Of course. Of course he did it. Yes, and of course I've had problems. That's why I acquired an attorney who was a very good attorney and is now the clerk of courts. And he's been helping me along until he recommended you.
So,
Listen to that. That's why I hired an attorney. He's a really good attorney. Now he's the clerk of court. He's been helping me all along. He's been helping me all along. He's been helping me all along. She's had the money to keep paying for an attorney, to keep the same attorney throughout the entire case. Henry has not. She's saying that Henry squandered all of this money while he is living with his children for years, and his children have to take care of him. Keep that in mind. Remember that, of course, Henry squandered all of the money.
are you asking this court to distribute the monies from the New York attorney's account on an interim basis to you? And are you asking, obviously you realize there are more issues to be resolved in the big picture in this case, and so there'll be a more comprehensive hearing in the future, and you are compliant with maintaining one half of that amount so that it isn't wasted away until a final hearing. Is that the case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For now, Judge, those are my questions.
Mr. Ramo, do you want to ask her anything?
Okay, we'll get to that here in a minute. You just heard all of the questions. Okay, the house was worth this much. Henry Ramo squandered all of the money. The house got foreclosed on. It's all his fault. I was at the bank trying to settle all of these issues, trying to settle all of these matters. They said I couldn't do it because only he could sign for it. That was her sworn testimony before the court. Wait. See, because we have this motion, and this motion was filed by one of Henry's really competent attorneys, and it was filed on August 12th of 2013. 9 years ago, over 9 years ago, and it was filed at 3:14 p.m. And again, Henry is going after all these trusts that Joni and her brothers have an interest in because they are secondary beneficiaries. Okay? So they have an interest in these cases as long as all these different persons are named as defendants because they will eventually be their persons. I don't know how to explain it much more than that. And this is written by the attorney. You remember the whole free man argument, the whole sovereign man argument, because you're calling yourself a man and not a person? Now comes the plaintiff, husband, Henry Ramo, man, who moves the courts as follows, okay? Henry Ramo, through his attorney, is coming to the court as man to move it. The court entered a temporary restraining order that has been continued in effect by consent of the husband and defendant wife, the woman. Josephine would be the woman, okay? And she even consented to having the restraining order continued, but it only lasted a year. So once she waited Henry out because she had all of the money, she could just go rob everything else. The man and woman own a Chase note on the property at 295 Thomas Road Real Estate Enterprises. This, I'm just going to kind of give you a synopsis of, but I'll have the paperwork up here. The man and the woman get a mortgage. They're getting what's in the bank account up in New York, and that's their only income right now. The mortgage is held by the trust, by the party's trust, 164th Street Real Estate Enterprises Trust. The mortgager is Alpha Partners, okay? So this is the trust. They're recognizing that this is all dealing with the trusts that are named as defendants. All of the attorneys have come up with an agreement to where the mortgage money could come down, pay off the mortgage on the house or the note on the house, and be distributed between both Henry and Josephine. But woman, Josephine, has unreasonably failed and refused to sign the mortgage agreement. And then they have an offer from Camp Toccoa offering them money to get the properties. And the woman, let's see what, okay. The terms of the offer, wait. Man has signed the offer accepting the offer from Camp Toccoa, but woman has unreasonably failed and refused to do so. So the man is asking the courts, Henry Ramo back in 2013 with an attorney was asking the courts to enter an order forcing the woman to sign the mortgage agreement, forcing her to sign the agreement that the attorneys had worked out with each other. Or, if you don't wish to do that, enter an order ordering the woman to sign accepting the offer from Camp Toccoa. And then they can split it up after that. And if that doesn't work out, what are we going to do? In the alternative, enter an order appointing a commissioner to act on the party's behalf to sign the mortgage agreement and the offer by closing documents and a commissioner's deed into the buyer, with the proceeds of the sale being used to pay off the mortgage, the cost of the sale, normal proportions of property taxes, and the balance of the proceeds being held in escrow pending equitable distribution. He was asking the courts, would you do anything, so that we don't just have this house go to the toilet? We can sell it to somebody. We can enter an order to where a commissioner takes care of all of this, and we'll have all of the money in escrow until we can get to the equitable distribution part. Henry Ramo verifies this, verifies it. And Fritz Mercer said he spent 2 days going through the entire file. Plus, this was talked about when Joni was verifying her declaration yesterday. Listen.
On August 12th, there was a motion in good faith by representation states trust property is still in the trust of 164th Street Enterprises.
She brought it up. And I do believe that's when Fritz stopped her.
So I we accuse JoJo, which is Josephine Ramo, and the colluders in collusion with malice, intent, deceit, forethought, and with a plan.
2013 this was filed, and now she's testifying Henry squandered everything. Think that's a lie? Maybe. Alright, now understand, Henry is confused. He doesn't really know what's going on. He had a plan, and the plan was to let Joni handle everything and all of the family's interest in the trust so that Henry could just sit up there and acknowledge his consent to what the family had already planned to do about their trust and their interest in the trust. And Henry's confused. He doesn't know what to do. So the judicial officer is saying, you can ask her questions.
I'd be glad to, yes.
Go right ahead.
I'm trying to get some of his questions in my mind to act against what she said. It's true the house was foreclosed, $295. The reason why I signed purchasing a house because she was gone. She was not at the house where I had signed the document to purchase the house. So she had vanished somewhere. Now,
Mr. Ramos, I'm allowing you to ask her questions. You're allowed to testify. You can testify anything you so desire, but you want to ask her any questions at this time.
ask her questions.
See, Henry doesn't understand what's going on because he can't really hear what's going on. That's why he put in a notice to inform them. He can't really hear what's going on. He didn't know. He was trying to testify, and Mercer's like, this is your time to ask her questions. He doesn't know. He's just like, what she's saying is a lie.
You're not required to, but if you have any, you're allowed to do that. And
Yeah,
You don't have to.
you're also allowed to testify if you so desire.
Okay. Well, that's how the 295 was purchased. When I purchased it, I put it into a, what was the documents that we purchased together from Dr. See, I'm not prepared for these questions because he has a whole list of them, and I've got to search my memory, which will be a little while. Who did we give the checkbook to? That was the signer of the checks for the trust.
You gave it to a man named Michael Probert, and he was to you did everything. The two trustees, and he was supposed to oversee the two trustees and make sure that everything was okay. You did that.
You had permission to sign the checks?
He was the sign the checks. Yes,
You
sir.
signed all the checks?
Not all of them, because you inadvertently went to Staples and got a stamper and put his name on that stamper, and this is why we'd always have
That's not
arguments.
true. I object.
Well,
I
that
object
is
to what you're
true.
saying.
Okay, well, go ahead and ask your next question.
The next question was, if,
See, he's just confused. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He thought Joni was going to do this part. He thought Joni was going to ask her questions. Joni had spent the past week looking over everything to do with this case. That's what they had talked about. And then Joni gets abducted in the first 3 minutes. See, he wasn't prepared for these questions. He thought Joni was going to be asking these questions. He thought Joni was going to be doing this part. Because that's what they had planned on. Joni has an interest in the case along with all of her brothers. She was going to be there to present that interest. She had all of her questions put together. She had spent the last week going over every single little detail of this case, and a lot of it she brought up before the day before, but she still verified it before the court. It was still testimony. We can't have her talking about actual real crimes here. Somebody might expect us to uphold the law, maybe. We just have to make an old man real confused and steal everything he has, and we know we're doing it because of the record we created. Josephine says that Henry squandered all of the money. Michael Probert was the one who signed the checks. On top of Michael Probert signing the checks, which Josephine testified to, in his pleadings responding to the first lawsuit, which he was the only one who answered, he clearly states that he gives the checkbook to Josephine's attorney. And Josephine's attorney clearly signs accepting it. Accepting the checkbook that squandered all of the money that Josephine stole. I'm sorry, it's just that upsetting. Just with what you've heard on the record today, if he actually looked through the file, he should absolutely know that she was lying. Just the fact that there was a trust and Henry wasn't in charge of the payments, she should know. I mean, not she, Mercer. He should know that Josephine was lying, that Josephine's committing trust fraud. Logic sense would dictate. I'm sorry, I'm so upset it's hard for me to speak. This is how absurd it is. And then listen to what he does. Listen to what he does.
Mr. Bradley, get me an order ordering the attorney up in New York.
I object to that right now.
Yes, sir, that's your objection.
Wholeheartedly. I reject. She's not getting a penny unless we discuss what's going on. Excuse me.
All right.
I need my daughter to tell me a little bit more because she has some of the documents that she has, preparation from the attorneys.
Get in touch with the attorney in New York. That money should be transferred from his trust account to your trust account. Make an interim distribution of half to your client, hold the other half to see what's going to come about. I don't know that I'll be the one to hear the rest of the effort.
I object.
It will, with
I want the
no
record to know I object.
I object. I gotta have Joni here to tell you what's going on. I object. That's noted. We're gonna rob you anyways, even though you don't understand what's going on. We're just going to take everything from the trust account, and Mr. Bradley, write up an order to transfer it from the trust account from the attorney in New York to your trust account, and then go ahead and give Josephine her half, and we'll make something up to take the rest from Henry later. And we gotta handle this quick. We gotta rob him fast before anybody finds out. Just like I said at the end of the last video, if you believe that that's good because a judicial officer, a state god, said it, then what you are effectively saying is that it is worse for you to walk into a court that you have a right to be at without an attorney, and not having an attorney, and not being an attorney yourself, that is more criminal than stealing trust money, stealing trust funds, robbing all of the trust from everybody in your family, and then getting the legal society, getting attorneys and judges and high clerks to aid and assist you in stealing everything else. Because anybody who knows Joni, anybody who has been friends with Joni since this started going on, knows for a fact that Baba has been living with his children. And knows for a fact that Josephine has a house, has a car, has all this money to pay for all these attorneys. And that Baba has had nothing. Because some of them have loaned Baba tens of thousands of dollars to get attorneys to try and sort it out, but no attorney would sort it out in law the right way. They would only sort it out for Baba if they could rob everything from the trust, just like Josephine. That's why it's a case for equitable distribution. And if you don't have the right to go into court and settle issues like this, you don't have rights, you don't have law. You live in a lawless society. Because there's only one other way to handle it. And it's not pretty. It's not a way a civil society handles matters of disputes. That's why we have courts of law. Let me know what you think. We are Just Conspiracy, and we just wish to hear from you. We wish to conspire to hear from you. Tell us what you think. Was the judge right? Was the judge wrong? Is trust fraud worse than contempt of court? Let us know. Comment below. It'd really help us out if you could help us out with the algorithm, because we're trying to monetize this channel right here. So please like, share, subscribe, all that good jazz, and stick around. We're telling a story here. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we're telling a story, and there's a lot to go on with it. And it's a really, really big, deep story. Probably take at least another month to tell. Anyways, much love, one world, love, and peace.
So we accuse JoJo, which is Josephine Ramo, and the colluders in collusion with malice, intent, deceit, forethought, and with a plan. He has a trust. He has a contract between him and Josephine and the trustees. There's no equitable distribution.
Not for trust,
No. And so they kept trying to pull us into equitable distribution. I can tell you the only thing that could be equitable distribution is Josephine is not giving Dad half the amount of money for a car and some other items. Everything else is in trust property. That is a contract, private contract between the two of them and the trustees. And then they went to this courthouse, to the Register of Deeds, took out 2 properties, forged, and they colluded, and through fraud, they took the property out of the name of the trust and sold. They sold the property.
sold my property, yes.